Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new episode. Today, we're here with Clare, and Clare is a transformation travel coach, and she works with people who wants to travel but feel lost, stuck, and don't know where to start. And she works on your money mindset, your confidence, and goals to get you ready to start traveling. And Clare, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too, me too. So there's so much to talk about this topic because one of the main challenges when it comes to travel is money. That's one of the main excuses that people say. It's like, oh, I will travel if I had more money, or I will do this if I had more money. So I think this is a topic that is really important to have a conversation about. So Claire, I want to start this interview by asking you, what exactly is a money mindset? And how does it impact our relationship with finances and travel?
Yeah, so money mindset are our attitudes and beliefs that we have about money. So they're formed from our past experiences. So how we saw our parents act and speak about money, what we learned about money in school, the people who you hung out with, what they spoke about money, and all these different interactions have formed money stories that impact then how we think, feel, and act with money. So, for example, if you heard your parents say money doesn't grow on trees, that will then impact how you view money now. So it might make you want to save all of your money because you have this mindset that money will not come to you, and you're programmed to think that it isn't something that will come to you easily. And as well as these stories, that it also creates feelings for you, and depending on what these feelings are, this will impact then how you act and spend money. So another example is if you've heard that rich people are greedy, it may subconsciously deter you from earning quite a lot of money because you don't want to be associated as a rich and greedy person. And so once you've got these stories, it then impacts the way that you spend your money. So, for example, with traveling, I always hear people say, like you just said, how do you afford to do that? I could never afford to do that. But they're stories that people are telling themselves that they've built up over the years about money and then not being able to afford traveling. And with traveling, when you see the value in it rather than the cost, that's when your story changes from I can't afford it to I'll save the money and I will go traveling. And so without knowing it, your money stories and your money mindset will be blocking you because you've told yourself you won't be able to travel and therefore you won't travel. And it's really important, I think, to know that traveling is different for everyone. And so traveling can come on a different budget. And so the one thing that I always do is ask and find out what traveling is to you and then work out what your money mindset is. Because if you're like a 50-year-old who wants a career break and is going away for 6 months, that will be different to someone who, say, is retired and is buying that van and is traveling the world, fulfilling that dream. So once you know your money mindset and what traveling is to you, that's that first step for you to then start moving forward.
Got it. Okay, so we started developing this money mindset since we were kids, right? So by the stories, by the phrases that we heard from people in our life. The other thing that you mentioned that stuck with me was the feelings we create around this, right? Because probably we heard like money doesn't grow on trees. So there's like this feeling that I have to do a lot to get a certain amount of money. I just actually talking about these money mindset stories. I had this story before that to get money was very, very difficult and that I had to work a lot and I had to work a long hours just to get some amount of money to get the things that I wanted. And there was at some point when I identified that I was like, I don't really have to work that hard. I can work smarter instead of harder. And then also another thing that you said that stuck with me was looking at the value instead of the cost. Can you tell us more about that? Like focusing on the value. I know you gave us an example about, the differences between two people that will be traveling, but do you have a personal experience related to this? A moment where you saw the value instead of the cost of a trip?
Yeah, so it is exactly seeing what value will this trip add to my life rather than seeing this is going to cost me, say, £1,000. And I think it's after COVID, and you've not gone traveling, you've not really done anything, and you're kind of thinking, can I afford it? Should I do it? Oh, I don't know. But if I went traveling, I'm going to go and see some friends that I've not seen for 2 years. I've not left the country. Traveling, like, it doesn't have to be that long trip. Just getting away and seeing the friends is worth so much more than the little bit of money that it may cost me. So it's seeing that value, that friendship. It's seeing what I'm going to get from a couple of days in the sun, exploring a new country, rather than, okay, this is going to cost me a certain amount.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And definitely COVID was putting aside all the negative aspects in a different note. It was a very eye-opening experience, because it makes you realize what things you probably can value more now that you didn't before. So,
exactly, yeah.
So I'm going to divide the next questions into 2 parts. So the first one, Claire, is what common negative money blocks do you think women may have?
So common blocks that women have are, I'm not good with money. So I actually recently heard on a podcast of a lady who said, I'm not good with money. And actually, she'd recently separated from her husband. And she'd never had to deal with money before. Her husband had taken responsibility for everything and paid all the bills and gave her some money. So she had this belief that I'm not good with money, but actually she'd just never had the opportunity to show how good she was with money. And so it's reframing that thought to, I'm giving myself a chance to show that I'm good with money. I think another big block that women have is money is the root of all evil. Like, we are so ingrained to think that money is bad. It's such a taboo subject. We're taught not to speak about it. So if you think about salaries at work, you're told not to discuss that. And the reason that is because companies can get 2 people in at the same level and pay them different salaries. So it's really only the company that is benefiting from that. But because we're then programmed to think, oh, don't speak about money, we think it's bad. And it's like, when you think, do you know what your friends earn? Do you know what people in your family earn? And potentially it's a no, because we don't speak about money because money is bad. But actually, if you earn a lot of money, does it mean that you're showing off? If you don't have a lot of money, does it show that you're not good enough? And having money doesn't make you a good or a bad person. Money isn't anything. It just is. So that is a really big thing that I think comes up for a lot of people. And then a common one for women as well is, I'm only capable of earning a certain amount. And this is that glass ceiling again. And it shows up for women all the time, doesn't it? But especially with earnings. If you look in like companies, how many directors are women, and gender pay gap, there's so many different things that show women and make women believe that they're not capable of earning a certain amount of money, or that there is that glass ceiling that once they've got to that, that's it. Well, actually, we need to be smashing through that glass ceiling, really.
Yeah. So again, so it all starts with those stories, right, that we were told, and then we start believing, and then the feelings that comes up thanks to those stories and words that we repeat to ourselves. If we tell to ourselves that, or if we heard and believe that money is the root of all evil, well, of course, we're not going to be the best at it. And I really like the example that you offered about the woman that she thought she wasn't good with money, but it's just because she never had the opportunity to manage any amount of money, because her husband took care of everything. So it's also like what you say about reframing those thoughts and those experiences. Like, oh, maybe I have this thought because this happened, and recognize that exact moment when you made that story, and then the actions towards reframing that story in a more positive way that can work for you based on your goals. And about the glass ceiling, so I have this theory that the glass ceilings comes from, first, not knowing your worth, and second, lack of confidence, right? So I guess like it's actually first one, lack of confidence, and second, not knowing your worth. So do you think that by us increasing our confidence, we can be able to ask for what we think we deserve?
Yeah, definitely. I think it really comes down to knowing your self-worth and knowing and having that confidence to ask for it. There's an Instagram account at the minute, I'm not sure if you know about it. It's called Salary Transparency Street. Have you
No,
heard of it?
no.
So it's this girl, and she goes around America and she basically asks people on the streets how much they earn to take away this taboo of salaries. But what she also asks is, did you negotiate your salary, or did you just take that salary straight away? And at the beginning, there was a lot of, oh, I just took my salary. But now the more posts that she does, the more I'm hearing, oh, no, I negotiated and I got a sign up bonus, or I got this, or I got that. So it is absolutely having that confidence to ask and say, because companies aren't going to say, oh, and by the way, here's a £10,000 sign up bonus. They're just going to give it to you. If you have the confidence to ask for that, it might be protocol for them to just say yes for anyone who asks. So once you know your worth, once you know what you could ask for, and when you know your worth and what you can ask for, then that's the abundance, that's the side, it's going to keep coming.
Got it. And do you think that travel, and specifically solo travel, can help us to connect with this abundance mindset and also to increase our level of self-confidence?
Absolutely. I think solo travel is one of the most important things. I think confidence is one of the best things that you can get from solo travel, because you're putting yourself in a situation on your own that you're not used to. It's that comfort zone and that growth zone. So as soon as you're flying to a new country, even before flying, to be fair, as soon as you're making that decision that you're going to do solo travel, as soon as you're putting yourself out there, that is the start of you increasing that confidence, trying new things, new cultures. Like, you really are just like pushing your boundaries, and that is going to show you that you can do the things that you think you can do, and then increase your confidence as a result.
Thank you. Thank you for the beautiful explanation. So also, Claire, next question is, how can developing a positive money mindset improve our financial well-being and our ability to travel and pursue our dreams?
So having a positive money mindset will allow you to know and understand that money comes and money flows. Like, money is an exchange. It's not limited. Money gets printed all the time, and there's opportunity for money to come to you. And it's us that have created this belief that money is limited. And when you know and understand your money mindset, it can become less stressful for you. You're not avoiding your finances. You're knowing what's going in and coming out. Like, if you think, how many times do you go shopping and you're just like tapping on your card, and you think you've spent about 30, 40 pounds, and you log on to your banking and you're like, that's fraud. I know something's happened on the account. And actually you've spent so much more money than you thought, because you don't have that control and that awareness of your money. I read something the other day that said, if you spend cash, you spend 25% less, because you're consciously handing that money over rather than tapping away. So developing that positive money mindset allows you to create and maintain good habits, so that you can then look towards what it is that you want to do. And again, I think it comes back to focusing on the value when spending, not the cost. Like, what will this trip add to my life? And in particular with traveling, when you go traveling, you've got a budget, you've got a certain amount of money to last you a certain amount of time. So if you've got a positive money mindset, you're already in those good habits, having the awareness of spending money. Because the worst thing would be that you've got, I don't know, say £10,000 saved to go and do this great trip, and after however many weeks, because you've tapped away, because you haven't worked on your mindset, you're out of money and you're flying yourself home, because that's it, your money's gone. So it's really, really important to have that awareness and create that positive money mindset.
For sure, it's definitely very important to develop those habits before the trip, because, as you said, you're just tapping away, and it's easier to to sleep away and just, you're having fun. It's like, oh, this is something I do once a year, for example, and I just deserve everything I'm getting right now. So it's just easier just to overspend. So it's important definitely to work on those habits beforehand. And I read before also about the cash, right? So that how you spend less when you have cash, because you're feeling it's a physical object that you have with you, instead of the credit card is more of a, it's something like of an illusion pretty much, that I mean it is there, but you cannot really touch it, you cannot really feel it, but you know, you just know when you see the numbers on your phone or your computer screen. So also now, Claire, that we start talking about some of these tips, what are some other practical tips that we can start using to develop a healthy money mindset? And how can we start implementing these practices?
So the first thing is awareness. And so everyone has money stories. It's not your fault. You're not a good or a bad person for having them. You just have them. And becoming aware of it is that first step. So that's the first thing that I'd always do, is work with people to find out what those money stories are. So it's asking questions like, how do you feel about money? How do you feel about rich people? What's the first thing that you think of when you think about money? What are your spending habits? And looking at your spending habits, I'd also look at the practical side of your spending so that you know exactly what you are spending. I spoke with someone the other day who said, oh, I would love to travel, but I can't afford it. And I'm like, well, do you know how much you're spending? Do you know how much money is going out of your account? And they were like, yeah, ish. So like really quickly, it moved from a confident yes to an ish. And yeah, you might know ish how much is going out, but do you really know what is going in and out? And I worked with a client it was on Wednesday morning. We were having a look at the amount of money that he spends on his lunches each week. And when we totaled it up, it worked out to be the equivalent of 2 weeks' wages throughout the year. And he's freelance, which then means that he could take an extra 2 weeks off work if he just food prepped. But when you're just thinking, oh, it's just £5 a day, you don't realise that yearly total. And when you think of it in that way of, that's 2 weeks that I didn't have to work just by food prepping, because you've increased your awareness, you can see it's already changing the mindset. You can see the light bulbs coming on and being like, right, okay, there we go.
Yeah, it can be £5 a day, but as you said, like it compounds through the year. So rather be aware of that. Actually, the other day I was talking to someone that had all these Netflix memberships and like Apple TV and HBO. And I was like, why don't we just add all these little amounts up? Because it's like $15, $16. But if you compound them like first through the month, it ended up being like $35 a month. It doesn't seem as much. But then if you do 12 times that, it's another significant amount that you could potentially add to your travel budget or to your emergency account or whatever way you choose to manage your money. Yeah. And also what you said about like the feelings that you have towards rich people, I think this is something that we really got to be self-aware of, because we're bombarded with all these messages about rich people, not only from our parents, or I will say in my case like parents and just like family and people around us, but also from the movies and TV shows, because usually the rich people or the people with power are like the criminals and or people that have very shitty values and you're like, oh, I shouldn't be like them. But it's like, there are also really good people that have a lot of money and powers and actually are doing really good things for society. So
exactly. And you don't hear about the good stuff as much, do you? Like, I think if you Google like how much money was donated to charity in a year, like it's so much money, and people do good stuff with money. But yeah, like you say, it's the movies, it's everything that we're like programmed to see, is the villain, the bad person. And again, there you go, associating with the bad side of money, when actually like you can do really good things with it, and good people have money too.
Yeah, actually, once I heard this phrase that says that money will only amplify who you are. So if you're already a good person with a good intentions, the result of it is that you're going to be doing more good things for other people, for even a bigger community. So something to think about. And I mean, of course, and if you're a bad person already and you and you have more money, well, things are gonna go not so good. But again, if you're listening to this podcast, I believe that you're a really good person. So
me too.
yeah. So yeah, Claire, well, thank you so much for all those practical tips. And it's crazy how it all comes down to self-awareness and be aware of all those messages and stories and phrases that we tell ourselves, and also the feelings that we have around that. Because I also have learned that feelings are the forces that drive our behaviors as well. So thank you so much for sharing all that. And so talking about the feelings and the stories, and as we mentioned a little bit of it before, that how increasing our self-worth and our self-esteem and our confidence help us with a more positive money mindset, and also connect more to this abundance mindset. So now let me ask you more specifically about this. What do you think is the role that self-worth and self-esteem playing in our money mindset? And how can we improve these areas to achieve financial abundance?
So I think it's really important to know what self-esteem and what self-worth are here. And I read it the other day, and I can't actually remember where it was, but self-esteem is what we think, feel, and believe about ourselves. And self-worth is recognizing that you are greater than all of those things. So it's knowing that you are of value and you are lovable and you are so worthy, and knowing that it's all internal as well. And if you have low self-esteem and low self-worth, it can go two ways. So you could end up like spending loads of money on superficial things to get that quick hit, that fix. But then it might mean that you're unlikely to invest in yourself and spend money on yourself. So, for example, traveling. Essentially, traveling is investing in yourself. It's investing in the life that you want and the dreams that you want to fulfill. So to improve your self-worth and your self-esteem, you need to challenge yourself, and you need to challenge that inner critic. So ask questions like, why don't you feel comfortable spending money on that? And if money wasn't an option, what would you do? What feelings come up? Do they relate to your self-worth? And I spoke to a lady the other day who said it seemed frivolous and not real life to spend money on relocating to Greece. Yet it was a dream that she'd had for so long. And I was questioning, but why does that feel uncomfortable? Or what do you feel comfortable spending the money on instead? Is it just the monthly payments on your mortgage, or getting a new car and just kind of like living that life that society tells you to live? And if you think of like people who are retired or who are thinking of retiring, like when you were working for all those years, what did you plan to spend your money on when you retired? Was it just paying off your mortgage, or did you have these dreams of traveling? And similarly with people whose children have grown up and flown the nest, as you say, like what did you plan to do when you were gone? Was it just paying off your mortgage? And are you going to be happy doing that? And it might seem uncomfortable asking these questions because you are questioning yourself. But once you've answered those questions, you're able to move forward then towards the life that you want to live, towards them traveling dreams that you had, and fulfilling all of that. And if that seems maybe a little bit hard now, I always say a nice self-esteem exercise is to each day write down something about yourself that you love and put it in a jar. And so when that inner critic is coming in, you've got this jar that you can open, and it's got a list of all the traits that you love about yourself, all the things that you've achieved, things that you never thought you'd be able to do when you've done them. And you're just able to then say to that inner critic, like, no, like, you're wrong. I am worthy. I am a good person. And it just starts by having that positive self-talk rather than allowing that negative one to come through.
I really like those exercises, especially the second one, and it's something that it won't take more than 2 minutes of your day, right? We just write it in a little piece of paper, put it in a jar, and it's like those nerdy thoughts will never go away. But I really like that idea of outnumbering them with positive ones, and focus on those, on the positive one when the negative ones come in, when that inner critic voice comes in, because it always comes when it's not invited. So we don't want it in our life, and it's always there hammering us. So definitely focusing on the positive. And when you mentioned like during your retirement age, Are you thinking about those goals that you had, like paying off the mortgage, and when you're an empty nester, like, are you thinking about the things you had to pay? But that reminded me of someone that I met. I met her, she was in her 60s. I met her a week before she was retiring, and she had like a folder, and actually she brought that folder. She had that folder with her wherever she went, and she had a folder with this list of all the things she wanted to do when she retired in a week. And I kind of felt sad and happy for her, in the sense, like, happy because, she will be able to accomplish all that in a week, but then sad because she waited so long for make those dreams or goals a reality. And she had like this folder where she was pretty much writing them down, and she had that folder with her to write down the ideas she got for her retirement. And I was just like, I don't know, I don't like this idea of the whole retirement thing and waiting until you're 60. But what about if you create some mini retirements throughout your life, and a retirement at your 20s, 25, like, I don't know, every 5 years or 2 years or 10 years, up to you. And then allow yourself to live those experiences. And of course, tapping into your money mindset, because you need to create good habits to save for those moments, and you need to plan for that. And something, luckily for us, that, and for anyone listening, I know most of my listeners are in the United States and Europe, we live in relatively good economies where we are allowed to save, and where actually we can work and we can live and have some money extra to do other things. So I think we should definitely take advantage of that.
Exactly. And that's also one of the reasons why I really try and work out what traveling is to someone, because like you say, like, oh, I'll wait until retirement to do this long trip, but traveling can be a long weekend somewhere. Traveling can be more holidays each year. It doesn't just have to be this one big trip. And I think once you realize that, it then allows you to implement that into your life now, rather than waiting until you've retired. I saw an article the other day, actually, and it was how to utilize your annual leave around your bank holidays. So you book 4 days off, but you get 11 days off straight, just with the way the days fall. And that's the kind of mindset you need to have, because there you go, there's 11 days. Where can you go? What can you do in 11 days? Rather than, I only get 20 odd days holiday. It's changing that mindset and being able to put more holidays into your life at the minute and being more conscious about it.
Yeah, exactly. And also, is, as you said, is looking at the value instead of the cost, because it's like, okay, I'm not going to be working those 11 days or those other days, but the value of that, because it is so good to your mental health if you take vacations or you travel every so often. Because first, the anticipation part, you are excited because you're going to go on a trip, and then you go on the trip and you live all these new experiences, and you like have time to just think and be yourself, and then you come back and you carry on those benefits with you when you come back in your everyday life. So it's just thinking about the benefits, and also those experiences can help you improve your money mindset also, because in the anticipation part, you have to plan, you have to save, you have to be mindful about your expenses. Once you're there, of course, you can maybe get a little too excited and spend a little bit, but if you plan for that, everything is okay. And then when you come back, you kind of like start the same cycle again. And most likely it will be easier, because your confidence will be, you will have a higher level of confidence because of the experiences you had during the trip. At least that's how I see it. I don't know if you see it the same way.
Yeah, exactly the same. And like, you think, does anyone ever come back from a holiday and think, oh, I do regret those 7 days in the sun. I do wish I'd have stayed at home and worked instead. Like, you never regret a holiday. It is like the thought that might like put you off it. But once you book it and you're going to have a good time, like, what would you regret more, not going or going? And I think anyone listening knows the answer. Like, you're not going to regret going on a trip.
Yeah, exactly. No, 100%, 100%. So, Claire, I mean, thank you so much for everything you have shared with us. And also, I want to ask you more about you, about your business, and about like how anyone listening this that wants to get in contact with you, how can they do it?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. My handle is CP Travel Coach. And my business is essentially working with people who want to travel, do not know where to start, and working on money mindset and confidence and your self-worth and understanding traveling and getting you to the stage where you're like, I'm ready to go. I'm booking my flights. Like, this is my time, and getting excited together. Like, I get so excited at other people traveling, even though I'm not going. So it really is moving you from that, like, I don't know where to start, to this is it, I'm fulfilling my traveling dreams. So I have a 3-month program, and yeah, if you're interested, pop me a message. I have recently made a visualization that's had a really good response from people, of kind of like visualizing yourself in that destination, like you're fulfilling your traveling dreams. So if anyone's interested in that, pop me a message on Instagram or Facebook, and I can send it over to you, because that is a real powerful tool.
That's amazing. So the visualization part is really good for that anticipation one as well, and tapping into those feelings that you will have during your holidays, and looking forward to them. I really like that idea. And also, can you tell us, how did you get into being a travel coach?
Yeah, so I was living in Iceland, and COVID brought me home. So I came home and I just didn't really know what I was going to do at all. And I came across life coaching, and so I qualified to become a life coach. And it was going to be just a generic life coach, to be honest. I hadn't really thought about what I wanted to niche in. There's always a bit of every life coach will find their niche and they'll have a niche. And I was never really that interested in it. I just really wanted to work with people. I wanted to help people. And then one day I was just like, I love traveling. And people always ask me, like, oh, where should I go? How do I do that? How did you afford it? So I just kind of like had this moment of, I'm going to be a travel coach. So I went from being a generic life coach to going to the nichiest of niches and becoming a travel coach. And I just know this is now what I'm meant to be doing. Like, my passion is helping people in travel, and I've been able to find the two and stick them together. And that is where it started.
That's amazing. That's great. I love those stories where something led you to something else, to something else, to something else. And then in one of those moments, you have that aha moment that you're like, oh, this is what I should have done years ago. But hey, really good that you're doing it right now. And also, something that came to my mind from your story right now is that, and I think it's related to money mindset as well, is that if you are unhappy or unsure of what to do next, or you just don't like what you're doing right now, but you want to do something else, just start thinking about what people come to you for. In your case, people came to you because of travel and asking you travel questions. That was also my case as well. And also, I'm always the friend that people come to advice for. So I was like, maybe psychology. I have this podcast where I talk about travel, which is what I love, and also I do other things as well. But it all starts with that question, like, what do people come to me for? Because those are part of your strengths.
Exactly, yeah. And what you enjoy doing as well, like what gives you that buzz, what gives you that fire. And it will snowball. Like, it's not going to come straight away with your final answer. Like, it will now start to snowball. And I always find it a bit like a jigsaw. Like, all the different pieces will start coming together and it will make sense. But first of all, you just got to try and find those jigsaw pieces. And once you've got it all together, you'll be like, there we go. It makes sense now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not a final answer, as you said. And even when you find the first answer, life goes on and you will find different answers along the way as well. It's not like, oh, yeah, I found this and this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life, which you can, but also keep in mind that you are evolving every day as well.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, yeah.
So Claire, thank you so much for everything you shared with us again. And I will make sure to leave the link to your social medias in the show notes. And before I let you go, is there anything else you would like to share with us?
I think my one phrase that I just keep saying to everyone at the minute is, you are never too old to travel. I feel like a lot of the time people can think, oh, travel when you're young, travel when, you've got all the free time before you find your career. No, like, travel when you're 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. if you can get on a plane, go and do it. There's always more things to see. And the only reason you think you're too old to travel is because you're telling yourself that. It absolutely isn't true.
That's true. No, that's true. And I'm actually looking for someone that is in their 80s traveling. So if you know anyone that is traveling in their 80s, send them my way, because I really want to showcase that hey, you don't have to. But at least that happened to me with my grandma, that she was in her 70s and she was just like, okay, I'm just here sitting, waiting to die. And just like, you have so much life ahead of you. Like, just we should all have this mindset that it's not so much about how much I have lived, which is important, but also how many days I have ahead of me and how I'm going to make them count. So again, Claire, thank you so much for everything you share with us.
Thank you so much.